right, go for it.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are wrapping up the protective factors that we've been covering the last few weeks. And today we're going to have the opportunity to talk about a little bit about social connections and a little bit about resilience. So I'm going to go ahead and share the presentation. If I could get a thumbs up from the people that I see that have cameras. Yes, you can see me. No, you can't. That would be incredibly helpful. Thank you. And you can see the PowerPoint. Yes. Yes. Okay, great. Perfect. I'm seeing thumbs up. I love thumbs up. So just a reminder that I am the co-chair for the Children's Trust Fund Alliance and their Parent Partnership Council. And the Alliance is, they work towards preventing child abuse and neglect and working towards building strong families and strong communities. A lot of what I'm about to go over with you has been integrated into the Parent Partnership Council's Strive for a Better Normal, to generate conversations between parents and any partners they may have. We want to develop the opportunity and the ability to have these very candid conversations that will help us build protective factors in our communities. And especially during this time of COVID and the events that have transpired over the last week and a half, and last few years, honestly. So we're hoping that these conversations will help us see the big picture, the essential elements that we've been covering the last few weeks, understanding protective factors and how they work together, understanding how when they're used to build parent partnerships and deepen knowledge and understanding, then we can shift practice, policy, and systems and ensure accountability. So we will review a few things along the way as we are covering our goals, which is to make sure that you have the information that you need to feel confident in understanding the protective factors framework and building everyday actions that you can take to build these protective factors. Each one of us has a role to play in policy changes and practices to develop a new normal that we can envision together. Also, I want to encourage you to slowly be integrating these ideas into your everyday work, everyday actions, in your families, both the families you work with and your own personal family. So those are the goals of what we're going to cover. These are the 5 protective factors that we have dived into over the last 8 weeks. We've covered some aspects of parental resilience, social connections, knowledge of parenting and child development, social and emotional competence of children, and concrete support in times of need. And while we've touched on all of these for a short period of time, wrapping it up and putting it into action requires you to see different aspects of the protective factors. And so that's kind of my goal here, is to wrap up that understanding. If you have any questions at any time while I'm reviewing the protective factors, please feel free to raise your hand. You can do so by going to the participants column. There should be an option that says raise hand, or simply put it in the chat box and I will try to read it there. So right now, what you see is a guide to help you remember the protective factors. Some of you will probably remember this. If you've never been on the call before, I will cover it very quickly just because it is a helpful reminder. First, we have the thumb, which represents social and emotional competence of children, because a thumbs up is one of the first ways we learn to communicate our emotions. Your index finger represents knowledge of parenting and child development, because you are your child's first teacher. The middle finger can help you remember social connections because it should never stand alone, and we all need a positive social network. Your ring finger stands for parental resilience because your first commitment must be to yourself in order to be strong for others. Your pinky finger signifies concrete support in times of need because it is the smallest finger and reminds us that we all need help sometimes. So again, that's a really quick and easy way to remember the protective factors throughout your everyday life. And it also shows you that they're all connected by one core central concept, which is in order for all of us to get by, we need each other. This screen may also be familiar to you. These are how these strategies that we use to build protective factors change into everyday actions, which result in strengthened families, optimal child development, and reduced likelihood of child abuse and neglect. But again, it's a reminder that everything that we do builds those strong communities. So I'd like to play a video right now, and there's a few things that I would like to say before we begin. First, I just want to recognize that there are a lot of high emotions in our country, in our cities, in our states, covering lots of different aspects of what is happening around us with the pandemic, with the protests and the riots. And I definitely want to be considerate of any emotions that may arise out of that. And I just ask that we all proceed and be as vulnerable as we are willing to be. One thing that Brene Brown says is, often when we go into a conversation, the first thing that I want to see in you is your vulnerability, and that's the last thing that I'm going to show, or something to that effect. I'm sure I didn't say it exactly like her, but it's the idea, the concept, that in order to be and see vulnerability, we have to offer the same thing. So after I show the video, we're going to cover some everyday actions, and then we are going to have a question, and then we're going to go into smaller groups where we can discuss this a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video now. Oh, it moved on without me. All right, let's try that again. Here we go. Can you hear this? I'm going to stop sharing and reshare. I don't think it was playing the audio. I'm sorry, guys. Let's try that again. Can I get a thumbs up or a comment if you can hear it?
I have never, ever been in a ball pit before.
What? You've never been in the ball pit?
No, never.
You gotta go.
No, I've seen them, but I've never been in one.
I remember these ball pits because my kids grew up in them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's see.
Okay, this is a good one. Share 3 things on your bucket list.
First one is to go skydiving.
I want to go skydiving.
Have you ever had those dreams where you're just like floating and, you're flying and everything? Scuba diving is just exactly that.
Don't you get afraid of drowning or being underwater or getting attacked by an octopus or any of those things?
I want to learn curling,
What is it?
like that Winter Olympic sport.
Oh, all right, where you slide the
Yeah,
puck thing?
and then it's like bowling and sweeping.
Find one thing you have in common. Do you play sports?
Not currently.
I play soccer, so.
Soccer?
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, I play the drums. Do you play any instruments?
I quit everything I ever tried.
All right.
Actually, fun fact, these aren't real teeth. Yeah.
I have a flipper too.
Really?
Ah! Oh my God! No! I can't. Wait.
What?
My front too.
Oh my gosh.
What? You don't even understand. I swear to God, I feel like someone planted us here for this reason.
Destiny.
Describe the first time you fell in love.
Oh, I think it was kindergarten. I don't remember his name, but he was beautiful.
I was in the Navy,
You were in the Navy?
and my husband was in the Navy. Long story short, before he ever kissed me or we were ever really together, he told me he loved me. 24 years later, we're more in love and we're better friends than even from the very beginning.
That's true love in its finest. Talk about someone who inspires you.
It's all right to talk about somebody that's a religious character.
Yeah, why not? This is our ball field. We can talk about whoever we want, right?
Jesus.
All right.
Just my peers. They're all creative in their own ways and have their own realities and own lessons. I just grow from everybody else's as well as my own. Martin Luther King, I think, because the fact that we're sitting in this box together is a big deal, you know?
You know who inspires me, believe it or not, is my daughter. She is everything I ever wanted to be.
All right. Talk about the experience that changed your life. Oh, that's a good one. After my wife decided that it was time that we split, I started to have a different perspective on life. I saw women differently. I saw relationships differently. I think I became more appreciative of women.
How old did you say you are? 20?
Yeah.
Okay. At the age of 21, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And it pulled the rug out from all my plans. It really changes the way you look at things.
My grandmother has it.
Who does?
My grandmother.
There's our comment.
We found the comment.
We found the comment.
That's why I was still here. We found the comment. Oh, create a secret handshake. Okay.
Okay, but nothing was spit.
Okay, so that.
But he both hands.
Okay.
So this.
And then whoever gets on the top makes a flag.
Oh, now I forgot what it is.
And then like maybe a little twitch in the middle.
1, 2, 1, 2.
High 10. All right, we did it.
That was awesome. I actually had a lot of fun. I was a little bit nervous because normally you don't hang out with strangers in ball pits. I got to learn some pretty cool things about you.
It was really nice to meet you.
You too.
I hope I see you again. Okay, I love it.
I'm really impressed by you. I was worried that I would start talking to you like a mom. I don't know if I did.
No. Nah, you didn't. Trust me, you did good.
Supergeek, subscribe.
Okay. So that video is one of my favorite videos that really addresses both the importance of social connections, the importance of addressing our own personal needs because they were doing something that was kind of fun and brought kind of sunshine into their world. But it also kind of covers how we all need each other. And I felt like it was a very relevant video to discuss today. And I also have a few quotes that I just want to bring forth to maybe you can carry with you. Part of the protective factors training is that these factors can be built into any program or policy that's in effect. And so there's different professions that most often seek out this information. For example, early childhood educators. This quote is from Henry Adams, and it is, "A teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops." And I think that that's just such an astute observation and really kind of gets to the heart of education. Child welfare professionals, which are out there in the world, it's a higher calling. There is no higher calling than human service. To work for the common good is the greatest creed. That was said by Woodrow Wilson. He was a president of the United States. really like this quote by Chuck Palahniuk, who's an author. And it is, if you can change the way people think, the way they see themselves, the way they see the world, you can change the way people live their lives. That's the only lasting thing you can create. Parents, I really like this quote by Virginia Satir. Feelings of worth can flourish only in an atmosphere where individual differences are appreciated, mistakes are tolerated, communication is open, and roles are flexible. The kind of atmosphere that is found in a nurturing family. And part of the reason I bring these quotes out today is because I do think that they're incredibly relevant to our current social climate in our country, but also in the way that we reach out to each other during this time of COVID. And really focus on addressing this question. Sorry, I went too far. So the question that we're going to cover today is, staying positive during times of crisis can be challenging. Our children and peers look to us for leadership. How do you find the courage to lead by example in your family and your community? So again, what we're going to do is we're going to break out into a few small groups. While you're in there, you have a few options. You can create a whiteboard and use the annotation toolbar that you see on the screen to edit it, or you can just elect someone to take notes and report out when we come back to the larger group. Either way is perfectly fine. And then when we come back, I will also be bringing up a whiteboard to share some information. Now, when I break out into groups, you may receive an invitation to join the group. You will need to accept that in order to join the breakout rooms. And they're going to be somewhat smaller groups.
Will you check on the dogs for me? I think I hear them crying out there.
And let's see. So there will be 4 rooms and roughly about 4 people to those rooms. And then when you come back, we just need 4 people to report out. So I'm going to go ahead and create those rooms now, and I might pop in and I might pop out to see if you need any help. Also, I will copy and paste the question into the chat box so you can reference it while you're having your discussion. You'll have about 10 minutes to discuss it, and then I will pull you back to the room. You will receive a warning that there are 60 seconds left, and then I'll come back here and talk about things. Are there any questions before we move forward? I don't see any hands being raised. Yes, you have a question? Or yes, you have it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put you into rooms and just let me know if you need me.
His unemployment check was in the mail and bars opened up. So, I'd be sick too. Work.
Golpe Mendoza. Creo que voy a poder hablar con ellos en español. ¿Quieres lo bajo un rato? Gracias.
Hi, my name is Lupe. I'm in the car driving, so I missed that last part of what we're supposed to do in the breakout room because the phone glitched.
Hi, Lupe. My name is Monica. I'm guessing Maricela speaks Spanish.
Yo también hablo español.
Yo también, Lupe. ¿Tú, Maricela, nos oyes?
No pude leer todo bien, pero dijo algo. La pregunta era, ¿qué es lo que estamos haciendo positivo
Sí, algo
en
así, pero...
este tiempo? Okay, I don't know if that's the question.
I see briefly the question, but I cannot see it again.
Yeah, I briefly saw it, and I can't see it again. And I have you through the speakers of my car, so I can't look to see if I can see anything.
Okay, maybe Maricela, can you helping us?
Monica, are you there?
Sí, Lupe, pero parece que estuviéramos las dos nomás porque...
Okay. Pues, I'm gonna assume que eso era la pregunta, como no la pude leer y no la vi con tiempo. So, pues mi nombre es Lupe. Yo vivo en Walla Walla. I'm a family support specialist for the ESD 123, the ECAP program. So what I've been doing for myself to stay positive, I meditate in the Bible a lot. So right now I do a Bible study. I've been doing a Bible study for a few weeks. It's through Zoom. A veces voy, pues ahorita andamos manejando porque voy para allá para Seattle, pero a veces allá en el pueblo me salgo un ratito y manejo y escucho música a todo volumen y depende escucho de todo clásico, en español, cristiana, lo que es, depende de cómo me siento ese día o ese momento. Y hablo mucho con mis amigas, extraño mucho a mis amigas, pues porque claro, no las he podido visitar. Nada más una amiga sí tengo, voy a su casa porque pues cuando empezó todo estábamos trabajando juntas.
Ajá.
So, ella era parte, como dicen, pues de las personas que ya estás alrededor, pues no puedes ir con otras personas. Y empecé de salir a agarrar comida pues para los niños o una nieve cada viernes. Antes no ni salía de la casa y pues ahora con más, ¿cómo se dice? Con más calma y nada más con más cuidado.
Ujú.
Es lo que pues yo hago.
Sí, correcto, esa era la pregunta, Lupe, tienes razón, de dónde hallamos la fortaleza, porque nosotros somos los modelos también para la comunidad y para la familia. Tienes razón, al principio todos hemos tratado de seguir las normas y de estar tranquilos y de esperar, pero a medida que pasaba el tiempo creo que todos nos hemos estresado un poco. Y yo también he estado en 2 grupos de apoyo del trabajo, que son martes y jueves, donde hablamos un poco de cómo estamos sobrellevando las cosas, qué es lo que estamos haciendo. Y lo principal es sí orar y pedirle a Dios que esto pase pronto y que podamos volver a la normalidad. Por cierto, si estás manejando de allá hacia Seattle, ten cuidado porque creo que va a haber también una marcha de nuevo hoy, ¿no?
Sí, hay muchas marchas. No voy a ir a mero Seattle, voy a ir cerca de ahí. Allá también tengo familiar y pues empezó todo esto. Estaba cerca con mi hermana y pues ya con más calma he ido más seguido a visitarla, pues nada más de ir a mi casa, a su casa.
Ya.
So, pero sí he estado haciendo muchos grupos. Como trabajo con, yo personal tengo 40 familias que trabajo con mamás y papás. Y yo también les trato de apoyar y contestar el teléfono y estar ahí por ellos. Tengo un teléfono de trabajo
¿Y ya has podido hacer las visitas virtuales con ellos?
sí, como tengo el teléfono de mi trabajo es iPhone, so lo hago por FaceTime o por Zoom. Hemos tenido varios clases en Zoom cada semana, pero ya se terminó la semana que entra porque nada más nos falta 2 semanas. Y ahorita pues estamos empacando los salones, pues las maestras. Yo voy a regresar el jueves, pero ya con calma ya voy a poder, no todos los días, pero sí puedo ir unas cuantas horas a la oficina.
Qué bueno.
Y todo por teléfono o por mensaje, por text message o por email.
Ya.
Que es un poquito más difícil, pero porque sí tengo unas familias pues que son hispanas que no saben usar the technology y también otras familias pues no tienen las cosas en la casa para poder utilizar todo esto. So, es un poquito difícil.
Sí, tenemos nomás que acomodarnos como se pueda. Ya nos van a devolver a la reunión principal, pero un gusto, Lupe, cuídate.
Sí, mucho gusto.
Hablamos luego.
Feel free to keep your cameras on if you would like. That's absolutely fine by me. So thank you so much for participating in those breakout rooms and really having the opportunity to have those candid conversations. Part of the reason parental resilience is so important as it is because it's the ability to recover from difficult life experiences. And these everyday actions that you see on the screen help us to do so. And right now, I think it's really important that while we are passionately pursuing things that take our energy, that we still find a way to replace that energy back. And we often do that through social connections. And right now it is very difficult to do that because we're isolated. And so I think it's really relevant to talk about, how we can do this and how we can show leadership in the ways that are important to us, but still kind of nurture our heart and give us that space. So I would like to open it up. Anybody has the ability to unmute themselves. I am going to bring up what's called a whiteboard. And if you have access to the annotation toolbar, if you are using a computer, you can now type in some things that perhaps somebody in your group shared or you yourself would like to share. And you can do so now. Or you can unmute yourself and tell me and I'll type it up.
Victoria, I'm sorry. We were still sharing. So are you asking about the last question before the breakout session, or you're asking about the following slide? Because in Spanish, I don't have it.
Yeah, it's hidden, apparently. I had to find it on mine as well. For some reason, the slide got hidden. But don't worry about the slide that's on the screen right now.
Are you going to type the question on the screen?
Yeah, I'm going to type it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Do you guys see the whiteboard? Get a thumbs up. Okay. So this was our question, which is staying positive during times of crisis can be challenging. Our children and peers look to us for leadership. How do you find the courage to lead by example in your family and community? And depending upon what hat you're wearing today, this could look different for different people. And so by leadership, that could be that you are the head of the household in your family. Leadership could be your position within an organization that helps families. Leadership can be within your community, say a church or perhaps a youth-led group. So it can look different for each one of us, but we do lead by example. So how do we do that during times of crisis? And how do we do so in a way that still gives us that space for protecting our self-protection, our self-energy?
I surround myself with people who are positive anyway and can be in a time of crisis. I was sharing with my group that the team that I work with, they're all very gracious and caring and very positive. Even now they're with the riots and things going on, and they're living right there. I'm up here, although there was apparently some riots not far from where I'm living at the outlet mall, but I wouldn't call them riots. They were little uproarings, but anyway, just surrounding yourself with positive people. And then the other thing I said was remembering how my grandmother was and what she would want and how she would want me to be. So just maintaining that positive guidance for my kids and my grandkids, because I have 5 grandkids, and how I know that I would want them to learn from me, and that's how they learn. That's how kids learn. And I just remind myself to keep positive so that they can learn that same thing. sooner than I did.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to share? And feel free to use the chat box as well if you're unable to add, actually speaking.
Victoria, do you want me to share what the Spanish line we're talking about?
I would love for you to share what you were talking about.
Okay. Voy a compartir lo que ustedes estuvieron diciendo en la línea. So for me, I just realized that nobody is asking me to be inside, just sitting in front of the computer. So I realized that I can take my time to get out of the home, of my house, and just breathe fresh air. So when I feel very stressful or just like a lot of anxiety, what I do is just stand up, go out. I have the privilege that I have a big backyard. So I'm gardening, and so I start working in my garden so I can connect with myself and with the nature.
I like that.
Yeah, another person, it's like, this person is a staff. So because I help families, I take a deep breath, and then I keep thinking about positive things, so I can share with them just positive things, and asking them to not give up. Another person shared that she's very involved in different organizations. So what she's doing is that she's learning from every call that is she in. So that gave me an idea how I can help others, because that is what makes me feel happy, help others. So I share with them some resources or things that they might need. And the last person says, I keep thinking about me and myself. We as Latin American people, I'm thinking about, we don't want to lose this way of greeting, right? With a hug, or just, especially with the children. So it's just wondering, thinking how I can show that love to the children and to others, even though we cannot hug each other.
I'm trying to remember how to spell words because that temporarily left my mind for a moment. Give me just a minute, but that's pretty powerful. So we don't want to lose the way we greet or show love to one another. But during this time, we have to come up with new ways to teach our children. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, it's how we can still demonstrate our love to others, especially to the children. And Victoria, I cannot see the whole slide. So people are writing there and I'm not able to see. I don't know.
The whiteboard?
Yeah. I cannot see the whole whiteboard.
Interesting.
You see it? The whole, because it's like if I'm seeing like you.
Marcela?
Yes.
I'd have to put your cursor in the middle of the screen and drag the chat box over.
Oh, got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that, because I have no idea how to fix that.
I have mine up already, so I fixed it. Thought I'd share.
Thank you. I'm going to have you as tech support on any future calls, just FYI. You also mentioned that it's good to separate your day and only work during the work hours. Step away and be present with those around you. I think that's a very accurate. One of the biggest internal issues in my home right now is just that there's no separation between family time and school time and work time and individual time. We're just around each other all the time. Would anybody else like to share? And one of the things I love about this annotation toolbar and the whiteboard is that you have the opportunity to place stamps and check marks and things. So if you agree, you don't even necessarily have to type out a completely new message. You can just circle something or put a heart next to it if you absolutely resonate with it. And I have a cat that just joined me. But I do want to take the time to provide you all with the chance to share if you want to. One of the most important things about sharing is that it gives you the opportunity to be heard. And some of the best ways to form partnerships by building protective factors is to provide the ability and the opportunity to communicate. So again, I'll open it up. Along with the resiliency that we have to build within ourselves and the social connections that we must have to balance ourselves, really, I think that we really do need that kind of core of vulnerability, that key component that allows us to bond with one another on a little bit of a deeper level. And some of the best ways to demonstrate that parents are valued or that our partners are valued is by sharing that vulnerability together. The stories that I share with you of my own personal life and things that we're going through, the examples that you share when we report out, that vulnerability allows for future development of partnerships. And more specifically, for me, it helps me develop better tools to assist later on. And it helps guide my work with the Parent Partnership Council in terms of knowing what parents and their partners need. So if you're here wearing a hat as an organization, you should know that the Parent Partnership Council, they also work to fit the needs of organizations that are building strong families. And so that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help build strong partnerships. I'm going to go ahead and save this whiteboard, but I am going to move on. So along with this tool that we're using and the resources, there are more online at the Children's Trust Fund Alliance website. There are some new tools that are translated in Spanish that have been created. Also, I would encourage you to talk to someone about the conversation that you had today. That is my challenge to you. Next week, we are going to wrap up the protective factors completely. I have another video to share with you and another kind of key concept to pull out from the framework. But in order to get you started on implementing the protective factors in your everyday life, we need to address and kind of bring out what stuck out to you during each of these conversations. What have you learned and what can you say to someone else within your circle? And if you would like to add something to that right now, you're welcome to put it in the chat box and I'll read it. You can unmute yourself, and if you want to say what stood out to you during our conversation today, I welcome that. If you are an organization or if you are a parent, I would encourage you to consider joining the Birth Parent National Network, which is a national network of birth parents and organizations working together to strengthen families. They are having weekly conversations built around connecting parents with organizations to build strong families, but also to make sure that they have everything that they need during this time of COVID. One thing to remember is that much like parents were struggling before COVID, and then COVID happened, and that was the big crisis that everyone needed help with, now we have parents that were struggling, and now they're struggling with COVID, and now we have an additional struggle where they're dealing with potentially the loss of employment from protesters and rioters, and we have the potential fear of discrimination, and we have lots of other things that are kind of coming out of the situation as it stands. But at the core of it, we still had parents that were struggling and needed help. And then we needed help during COVID. So I would encourage you to keep building those protective factors in the families that you help, and join this Birth Parent National Network because they have resources that might be able to help, or they can connect you to other organizations. There's a comment in the chat box. I really appreciated the video. It reminds people that we all have something in common with one another, no matter age or background. One of the things that we covered in the previous weeks was that, you know, more often than not, we have more in common than we have in opposite. Would anybody else like to comment?
Victoria, I have a question. So for this talks, weekly talks, are they hosted in Spanish as well, or only in English?
At the moment, there hasn't been a request for Spanish.
Okay.
But if somebody requested it, then they would do what they could to address that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, there's a parent survey. Katie just put it into the chat box. Please share the parent survey with your families and yourself. The address is in there in the chat box, and I assume it's probably on their website as well.
It's not yet,
Okay.
but most of the folks on this call, I think, should be receiving our WASA Monday email, and the link is in there. The survey right now is in English and Spanish, and will be in other languages eventually. And you can just select the language in the little box. And yeah, this is going to help us make sure that decisions are made at DCYF and with our own advocacy that reflect what parents actually think, not what we think they think.
I like it. So I'm done unless anybody has any questions. Like I said, next week I'll wrap up the framework review.
Thanks, everybody.